And to the bottom left, in the blue, he is, for Alpha X, the Zerg player, RAGNAROK. And in the upper right, in the red, he is an imaginative Protoss player, certainly Protoss player who drives the meta here for Alpha X as well. Give it up for Zoun. Well, you see, Eric Hartman, what you do is you take the square root of a negative girlfriend, and then it becomes imaginary. Easy. Very simple. See if we have anything super crazy happening in the first minute 30. The answer is no. Zoun, he's taking that normal expand build. We see RAGNAROK, well, he's not going to be able to take his third or his natural at any normal time because roadblock is just so meta at this point. So we see the normal time third base. That is totally fine. But really what I'm looking at here for RAGNAROK is what he opts to do. Oh, hello there. I can't pronounce that. Najlepskepsky Cord. Anyway, I tried. It's fine. It's a-okay here. But really what I'm looking at is what builds Zoun is going to throw out. He's actually had some rather interesting stuff as of late. I mean, we all remember 4-gate into Disruptor that looked really good for a while because, I mean, look, you get a bunch of Roach Ravager and Disruptors are not happy about that. Or Disruptors are very happy about that, I should say. But something that Zoun has started doing recently, I mean, it's not going to matter. He's just going Stargate. Okay. But in general, something that he's been doing is actually like 3-gate Adept Expand. Kind of the same idea where we had a lot of 4-gate Blink Starks for a while and people started paring back the number of gates and getting quicker expands and try to see what they could get away with. Similar thing that Zoun is going for. Or has been going for, but at the end of the day, no, it's just going to be Stargate play. Okay, and the interesting thing here is it was Warp Gate into Stargate, which, again, that means that your Warp Gate's going to be a little bit faster. You have a little bit more stuff on the ground to defend your third base. And it's very Trap style. Trap is pretty much the only player, I guess Parting is doing it a little bit as well, but Trap is pretty much the only player that's still going Warp Gate into Stargate. That was his original build, right? Warp Gate into Stargate into 353rd and a double Stargate. That was looking so good. And then, well, most Protoss players went back into Stargate into Warp Gate, which is fine. You have that faster Stargate tech. You have that faster Oracle. But I mean, there's a reason the Trap has been winning a lot of stuff. So Zerglings here on the map, actually a decent amount of them. We're at like, what was that, 30 Zerglings? 24 Zerglings out on the map here. I guess, they're just circling around looking to see if they can cancel the third base when it does go out. As the Void Ray is out here, we will lose that Overlord immediately. But here's the thing, we don't see a probe out on the map just yet. This is the third base timing. Oh, okay, yeah, there we go. Zerglings will not find their way on in. Adept is in the wall. It looks like the probe now. No, we still have Zoun here only on 2 bases, which tells me that we're going to see something. I was thinking +1, but it will be a fleet beacon here in this game number 1. And that's going to work out rather nicely. Well, we're going to have to see whether it works out rather nicely for him. I'm assuming this is for Void Ray Speed. I highly doubt this is for Andean Pulse Crystal Phoenix. Although this is something that we did see, I want to say it was Astrea do against Scarlet in a game earlier on in doing DreamHack Masters. Now, Scarlet eventually won the series, but I believe that Astrea did win that singular game. Anyway, Zerglings, they will find the probe, and then we'll force the probe back for a time. It's now getting close to 5 minutes when this third base is finally going to go down. And yeah, it's traditionally okay to get your third base a little bit later if you are going for that. But no, this is not even going to be forward rate. No. This is quick carriers here in this game number 1. And this is such an interesting build. Namely because it is an extremely volatile idea. If RAGNAROK knows what's happening, he can make sure that he has his lair done rather soon. I mean, when this is done, drop a couple additional gases, drop a Nidus, drop a Hydra Den, and just do Nidus Queen, or Nidus Hydra Queen, run across the map, and just smash this build. But he has to see what's happening. He has to have a good understanding, and he does not have any way to get on in. These carriers are being hidden. And Well, if he decides to go for a queen walk, I really don't like that one. Queen walks against carrier tech are just not a thing. In fact, this build, it's not quite the same build that Zest has been going for his 2-base carrier tech, 2.5 base carrier tech. But this is a build that Zest was doing a very similar build where the entire idea of it was to punish queen walks, right? Because you only have so many queens. Carriers are much beefier than Void Rays. They're sitting at 450 total HP, and and the additional HP from interceptors. But now this will get scouted on out here. RAGNAROK knows what he's dealing with. These two carriers are out on the map at 630. Stupid fast carriers. And we're going to have to see how he chooses to react. He has 6 queens on the map, going on up to 8. He will need more just to make sure that he's able to defend against the carrier aggression. But there we go. Hydroden coming on down. I kind of want to see a Nidus as well. We're going to have to see whether that one works. As Zoun, yeah, he's just going to lean on into this. +1 air. Thought we were going to see it, but we see it regardless. And Flux Veins coming on down as well. He's just really leaning into the Skytoss tech. Meanwhile, of course, Zergling counterattack on into the other side. But there's a shield battery here. It's not going to get too much done. I kind of wish he'd committed to that one adept. I mean, it's not going to do that much different. But anyway, we have Zoun looking really fantastic here in this game number 1. Finding 7 workers. Is it going to be 8? It's going to be 7 workers with 2 adepts. And yeah, the carriers, they're not going to be able to do too much, but they have canceled this base. And that by itself is going to be something here. Now, the queens, they're going to just try to target this carrier down, but queens do not do a lot of damage. And the interceptors are just firing strong as well. How many interceptors do we have on the map? It's still 25, so really, yeah, there was like 4 interceptors went down. Not exactly worthwhile, but we should start to see Hydras coming on in rather soon. Hydra range +1 and a 4th base. I really want to see a Nidus, but we may be past that timing. I think, yeah, we're going to be a little bit too far past that timing at this point. Because once +1 is done, the Hydras are not going to be able to fight these carriers all that well whatsoever. So it looks like RAGNAROK has very little interest in trying to kill this early. I mean, he has Hydras coming out, sure, but it's a Hive on the way. We have that second Evo, so he can get Carapace to make sure that he can countermand the extreme power that we see with +1 air. Kind of funny. Hydras against Void Rays against carriers. When the carriers, they don't have that attack upgrade. Pretty good. Once the Void Rays get that +1 attack upgrade, because they just attack so fast. I mean, carriers effectively have 8 attacks per second because, 8 interceptors and... Actually, it may even be more than that. Interceptors attack quickly. Void Rays, I believe it's 3 attacks for 3 or 4 damaged instances per second, which means effectively a +1 is +4 DPS, right? It does increase significantly. And that means Void Rays can actually fight Hydras, can actually fight Queens for the most part. So we're going to have to see what happens with that one. As the Hydra ball is starting to grow here, as RAGNAROK, he's not as big as I would like him to be. Losing that 4th base, having that delayed for a while, is causing problems. He's only on 167 supply. He's only on 80 work. Well, he was only on 75 workers when I started saying that. And that's not massive. It's okay, but it does mean here is it's going to be damn hard for RAGNAROK to get aggressive on the map at all. To slap this 4th base down, he does not have the supply for it. Doesn't really have the upgrades either. Although we are getting into Vipers, and well, how many High Templar do we have right now? The answer is none. So no High Templar on the map do mean these Vipers are going to be rather useful, or at least have the potential to be useful. And as we don't have Storm either, I don't believe, that's not going to be great. But it looks like actually Zoun is maybe gearing up for a rather big attack. I mean, he's just building Archons instead of having High Templar that have the potential for, feedbacks and eventually Storms, even if he doesn't have Storm yet. No, it's just a bunch of Archons, and he is marauding out here on the map with his War Prism as well. A bunch of Spores are going to be made, but they're just going to get canceled immediately here. That's a bit of a waste of a lot of money here. But what this is doing is buying a little time, allowing time for these Lurkers to complete, allowing time for Seismic Spines to complete. And that means that this ground army of Zoun is going to be much, much more difficult to deal with. Now, it looks like we have a couple Adepts here. They're going to find their way on into this 5th base. 8 workers do go down, going down to 76 workers here. I think a decent amount of those workers that died actually died when they were trying to make spores. So, not exactly the most impactful thing. Now Zoun, he's got +1 air, +1 ground. He is fully maxed on out, and this is not an easy fight for him to take. Now we're going to see the feedbacks, but one carrier goes down immediately. Second carrier as well. Third one is just going to get targeted on down, I think, but no, the Hydras are not doing that. In fact, here we got a problem, and the problem is Charge Lots. The problem is Archons. The problem is Void Rays, and yeah, we have some lurkers. They're doing what they can, knocking down the ground army. But when there's no anti-air, folks, the anti-air does not matter. These Void Rays are dominant. There's two carriers that remain are still dominant. The Queens cannot take this fight, not really. And yeah, that's going to be a GG. Zoun, he takes that game 1. We have people saying that there is going to be a Queen walk in this game. I don't know, maybe. Lightshade is fairly decent for that, but Oxide is as well. So, you know, honestly, it felt like he can't really do a Queen walk against that build. Yeah, I don't know. OBS decided to disconnect for a second. I mean, I'm line in. I very rarely have this issue. So, OBS, please. OBS, please. I'm blaming that. I'm blaming Twitch. Anyway, it felt like RAGNAROK just scouted the carrier tech a little bit too late in that game, and you really can't Queen walk against early carriers, unfortunately. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. That's kind of what you do for the build. Because when you have those two, eventually 4 carriers and stuff on the ground, of course, because you did go and you got your, you got Warp Gate before Stargate, well, Queens don't DPS through that appropriately, and once the Queens die because the carriers are in a good spot, you, the carriers sit on top of the roaches and it's fine. So that is, not the, and I mean, once you get those carriers up, you go back into Void Rays, and the carriers are enough of a meat shield that the Void Rays can actually fight rather nicely. And of course, Void Rays build a lot quicker than carriers do anyways. So we're gonna have to see whether Zoun goes for that in game number 2, whether it's gonna be more like a +1 Sky Toss thing. That's something that we see happen occasionally, or well, whether we see something else entirely. Xerxes, my name is Beowulf. I cast StarCraft, and it looks like our caster command is not up right now. Maybe it's casters is the command, but anyway, it is me. My name is Beowulf, and I believe the other thing that's normally part of that caster command is the fact that you can follow me on Twitter at Beowulf_SC2. Anyways, we have our first Void Ray out. We have an Oracle as well, and we're gonna have to see how much damage that gets. I mean, Overlord sitting here on the ramp immediately, no big deal there. Warp Gate is now done right around the same time that third base is going to get taken. And RAGNAROK, well, what is he building on up to here? We're at 3 Queens. We're going up to 5 at the very least. But, I mean, it's not a ZVP at this point where you go and... where you don't go and you build like 5-7 Queens just to keep yourself safe. You know, I'm not sure that Zoun has the best PVC right now. I think that moniker still goes to Trap because Zoun is not winning tournaments and Trap is Trap. And more importantly, Trap has like multiple styles here of PVZ. We all talk about his Stargate tech that really he has figured out that he has really innovated. Right, he was the one that developed that first double Stargate build, and he's done a lot of other stuff. But he also, I mean, he won the recent GSL Super Tournament, his big PVC matches. He killed Rogue off of ground-based tech, right? He played Charizard Archon Storm and won with it. He played Templar Archive openings, or he played what's the word? Not Templar Archives. The other one. He played Twilight. There we go. He played Twilight Council openings, and he won with it. So Trap strikes me as the much better PVC player right now. But anyway. 5 more workers will go down for a grand total of 7. Yeah, 7 workers go down, and you know what? 5 workers for 2 adepts. Yeah, no, absolutely. That is not the type of damage that RAGNAROK is looking to take right now. As our third base is done, we have Charge underway. +1 air is going to finish right around the same time as Charge, and I think we're going to see Void Ray Charge as an all-in here. It's something that we saw. Generally, it was with +0, and it was taking the ladder by storm right when the Void Ray change happened. And we're like, okay, well, this seems rather strong. And then Zerg players learn how to deal with it. Just a lot of Queen Roach, and you're fine. But +1 really changes the calculus, right? Because, excuse me, it changes the calculus because +1 Voids can actually fight Queens rather well, and Charge Lots, well, they're just there to be a buffer. until the Void Rays can really start killing off everything else. So we're gonna see a bunch more gateways going on down. Right now we have 2, but that's soon gonna be going out to 5. Really, probably should go up to 7 or 8. But okay, no, it's gonna be Void Ray into Charge Lot Archon, and it's gonna be a timing with +1 ground, I think, instead of just the +1 air timing. Now the Voiders are going to look to take the fight here. Queens, well, one of these Queens will go on down immediately. And now that means some drones going to get target fired. But any Queen that dies now means that any Queen is not going to be nearly as impactful in the ensuing push. So we're here at 7 Queens. We were at 8. But Hydras are on the way. And we see, oh, that's interesting. We see Ragnarok going into Hydra Ling Bane in this game number 2. And that is a super anachronistic style. It doesn't tend to be all that great from what I've seen, strictly because a lot of these Stargate openers, they go immediately into a Disruptor's Beast Storm. And when you're talking about something like that, well, you want to make sure Splash against Hydroling Bane, not all that great. Or it's really all that great. Hydroling Bane's not all that great against it. So that's always fun, as we of course see the creep spread getting cleared on out here. And yeah, the benefit of this going Mass Hydra is, well, the Void Rays can't do all that much. But what they can do is they can wait for the Hydras to get aggressive and then prismatically align a base down. Sushi gives up. Anyway, a bunch of Hydras moving out on the map here. Baneling speed is not yet done. We do have 8 Banelings, so we got a Baneling drop coming on in. Question is whether Zoun is going to be prepared for that. I mean, he does have some vision here, but it's not like warping in a bunch of Blink Stalkers are going to do much for him. And his Void Rays are where on the map? There we go. Over here, and yeah, there is no Void Ray speed, so it's going to be hard for him to react. It's all going to be down to his splits versus actually being able to knock this Overlord down in time. And oh, I like what Ragnarok's doing here. He says, okay, well, I'm going to distract you as this is happening. I'm going to try to attack into this base, but oh, immediately there, the pull is there. The probes, there's going to be no probe damage here, and yeah, this is just a dead drop. Nice job here from Zoun. He's on top of everything. He takes literally 0 damage. I mean, I guess the probes were pulled, and that means the income is not going to be nearly as much, but I mean, it's going to be fine. He really did not take that much here. Zerglings, they die, they come out of stasis. Now Disruptors are on the field. We have 4 of them. Zoun cresting over that 150 supply mark. That really tends to be an inflection point in a lot of these ZV tech matchups. ZV Mac, right? ZV Protoss. And that's always rather scary. So that Disruptor shot's not going to be all that great. Baneling's actually going to go on top of a lot of these Disruptors. And with the Queens walking as well, I mean, this is not the easiest push to make happen. Or not the easiest hold, I should say. But now Banelings are going to look to roll on in. And this is going to be a dead mineral line at the very least. The force fields are going to be fine. But honestly, Zoun can probably lose this base and still actually lose all these workers. It's not the best thing for him. But he's still going to be on 4 bases. A lot of Banelings have been traded in the cost. A lot of these Queens are going to go on down with the +1 Void Rays, and the Disruptors can take much better shots here. There we go. Actually, though, the Disruptor shots are not going to be all that great, but that one's going to be fairly decent here. Well, we still have the Archons firing strong, but the tech here of Zoun is getting knocked on down. Zerglings getting on top of all of these Disruptors. Archon, yeah, they do great against Zerglings, but they still got to have their shields. And Zoun will lose the base. He will lose 20-odd workers. 27 workers will be the blood for the Blood God here, because he's going back down to... I'm sorry, I was saying he could afford to lose that base because I was thinking this was the 5th base. It's not. Zoun now on 3 bases to the 5 bases, or 4 bases, soon to be 5 bases of his opponent. Actually, 5 bases now. And that makes life rather difficult. But we certainly have 1/1 carrier Void Ray, and a 4th base going to get taken once again. 3 probes going to be built at a time as soon as Zoun builds up a little bit of free minerals. And once he has his carriers out, once he has all that fun stuff, Archon's coming in, and as well as he's going to be able to rebuild his economy. But this is a big push here from Ragnarok. They did a fantastic job of shoving Zoun back away from that timing that he was looking for. Remember, this point in the last game, he had a similar composition, except for the fact that, well, he was sitting at 200 supply. And yeah, he didn't have as much flash, but still. So So yeah, now we have everything running on it. It's really all down to the disruptor shots in the game at this point. Well, a couple of banelings for free is always going to be nice, but it really is down to the disruptor shots here, because this army, it's decent. It's down 23 army supply, fine, but it's not an army that looks to trade super efficiently without the splash, because you just run into things getting swarmed. So banelings are going to look to roll on into this base here. And they're not going to get many probes. In fact, they're not going to get any probes for the time being. But what they are going to do is they're going to knock down a lot of static defense, which means that Zoun's next defense is going to be much more difficult. Oh, these probes have to be very careful. Okay, but there we go. Yeah, Void Ray will find these banelings, and that is going to be that. Is now, okay, the Zealots on the right-hand side will find the aggressive army, and that will allow Zoun to rotate or over in time. But again, he is locked into his quadrant of the map now. He's finally mining it, finally up to about 70 workers, finally on 4 bases. And yeah, he's got +1 on both air and ground, right? He has a somewhat powerful army here, at the very least, powerful enough to start removing creep, powerful enough to start marauding around. But like this, Ragnarok has started to build his spore. How many spores do we have? That's what I meant to click. So 22 spores on the map here. That's the point where it means this game is going to go a little bit longer, because it's just so hard for the Protoss player to really attack into any sort of spore forest. Although, where are they? Okay, outside of the, yeah, there we go. Outside of these bases, making life difficult. Bailey's looking to roll on in. It's only +1. Archon's there. No big deal. And here's the thing: Storm is about halfway done. So we're getting rather quickly into Carrier Storm. We have +2 ground, only +1 air, but we're going to get shields as well, which is just going to make these interceptors that much more powerful, make these Archons as well. But I do like this from Ragnarok. Again, we have pathogen glands coming on down. We will start to see some infestors if we don't. Yeah, no infestors yet, but we'll start to see them. And what I want to see is Neural. All right, Neural is actually what makes this composition extremely scary. Hey, Percival! Of course, the fantastic up-and-coming Terran player from Team Invis rating us up. So thank you very much, Percival. We appreciate that, as now we have this push coming in on the right-hand side. I mean, it's Archon, Disruptor, Void Ray. That's going to be a nice Disruptor shot as well. That's not going to get all that much. Looks like, yeah, nothing's going to happen on this side. And Zealots, they're going to run on in. Hey, maybe they knock down some spores, but that's just about it. But now, I mean, Ragnarok... Or he's allowed Zoun to max out here. Zoun is starting to build a rather big army. The Spore Forest on the side. Oh, God, that Disruptor shot is going to be rather massive indeed. We're going to see a recall coming on into this base. A lot, and I mean a lot of banelings have died, but oh, that's the problem. You recall the ground. There's nothing to defend the air, so 2 carriers die immediately. And actually, okay, this is just a recall to this base. How many carriers do we have on the map? The answer is 2, and they're not here. So that was extremely costly. Poor Zoun, he kind of recalled the wrong thing, and it just meant it left his air army so messed up, or so exposed. All right, so it looks like our pause is going to be rather short-lived. Billy CX, I'm here for good games too, and thus far we've not been disappointed, so, you know. Oh, it looks like we're not getting back as quickly. Never mind. So we're going to get back eventually, but while we're here, I should probably plug the sponsor of this fantastic tournament. There we go. I can point things properly. This tournament, and Alpha X in general now. I don't have the, unfortunately, I don't have the jersey yet that has the logo. Gonna go right there. But this tournament, or this tournament, Alpha X in general, is sponsored by Salad now, which is a really cool crypto mining tool that figures out when you're not doing anything, and mines Ethereum for you. But anyways, we're back into the game now, and we're going back into it. Okay, so now 3 carriers on at a time here coming on in from Zoun. He has that triple carrier tech. Storm is done. I want to see +2 air. That is kind of what is just very noticeably lacking. That +2 carrier timing has gotten a lot of credit, a lot of focus after, well, at least if you want to talk to Rotterdam, he's a big fan of that +2 carrier timing. And, well, without it, I mean, there's the Sky Army that Zoun is committing so much to. It's just not nearly as powerful. And I mean, when you're running into a bunch of Archons, or a bunch of Ultras, excuse me, that's always a bit of a problem. Disruptor shots, they're not going to go on out here because you know what? Vipers are in fact the thing. So we're going to see these Archons going in out of range of the shield batteries. This push on the right-hand side is going to start causing problems. It looks like the Protoss player will be able to carry the day on the left-hand side. But again, it's this pressure on the right-hand side that is the problem. These Ultras are starting to go down, but I mean, not all that quickly. But now, okay, now we have a bunch of Stalkers and Zealots. That's going to be fine. But again, maybe not the most cost-effective trade. 3 Archons, a Disruptors, 12 Zealots for, you know, a couple Ultras. Ultras are expensive, but that is absolutely going to be a cost-effective trade for the Zerg player every day. And we talked about last game how effectively Ragnarok lost the map early on, and when you lose the map, you just kind of lose the game. He has the map in this game. He has every, well, all but one base that he can reasonably be expected to take. He has Spore Force everywhere. Well, I guess not there, but, you know, he's Spore Forests everywhere. As I try to point out where the Spore Forests are, they're just not showing. It's fine. And that makes it so hard for Ragnarok to really, or for Zoun to really attack on in. But now we have +2 air attack going on in. This is just going to be a dead base, not even going to be a canceled one. It builds, and you don't even have the time to cancel it when you have all that +1 voids moving on in. And we're going to start to see some of these spores get targeted on down. No big deal there. And actually, there's not a lot behind this. How many infestors do we have? Most importantly, do we have neural? The answer is no. So it's all going to be for the fungals. So we're going to see, there we go. Actually, not even going to be for fungals. It's going to be for that wonderful microbial shroud ability. But okay, now this army is going to find its way into the bottom side here. We're going to see a bunch of drones start to go on down, 16 of them. And then maybe just a recall, but actually no, Disruptors are going to be able to defend this on the other side. So Joe now, he is fully maxed on out. He has found a position where there are really not that many spores, but he does have to worry about the ultra flank. But now, okay, so we have the fungal parasitic bomb combination. The splits are not going to be all that great, and with microbial shroud as well, it means these ultras are not going to die. It's just going to be a recall coming on in. The ground army of Zoun, I think a lot of it just died there. 8 Archons died and an immortal. That is expensive, but you know what? Surprisingly enough, not as expensive as the damage that the Zerg player has started to take in this game. Another base will go down. 5 workers as well. Zoun, he is finding value in this game, absolutely, but we do have to build more stuff. His army supply is low, even if he is up rather massively in money, right? He is mining a lot more in this game. His bank is being built much higher, but let's see. He has 1 Archon. He doesn't have a lot of immortals, although he is up to 3 now. And really, just with that lacking, it means he's not going to be able to be that much more aggressive for the time being. But look, if he's able to move on in, trade much better than the Zerg player every time, and knock down 2 bases on both sides of the map, he's going to be very happy with how that one goes. So now we have +1 ground attack, we have +3 shields, we have +2 air attack, just about done. And he is just rounding out his upgrades. Really, hopefully, we're going to see 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and that's going to make life rather easy for him. So let's see. Banelings rolling in on the top side, but there's enough static defense that should be able to dissuade that Zealots as well. Yeah, these Banelings are not, well, actually, the rest of these Banelings are going to be able to do a whole lot more. The splits are going to be fairly decent, actually. And, I mean, it's going to knock down the mineral line, but that was a lot of Banelings. Oh, I like this, though. Banelings are going to burrow, so when we see more Banelings get main-arted in, well, that's going to be out. So Zealots here on the other side, but static defense is going to be enough to distract them for the time being. A lot of infestors now on the map for Ragnarok, and that's a scary idea. Yeah, he doesn't see those Banelings. Okay, but now we do have Zoun once again is going to look to move on in onto this base that is going to just get targeted on down. Army's not really in position. Oh, the flanking Disruptors going in. Is he gonna? Oh, it doesn't quite have the range. That is unfortunate. But now we have Neurals coming on in. Feedback's knocking down a lot of these infestors, but they're just not dying. It's Microbial Shroud. It's a powerful drug. So the Archons, they're going to be brought on into the fore. And you know what? Despite everything, despite the Neurals on everything here, this is turning into a rather good fight for. This is turning for a rather good fight for Ragnarok at the end of the day. But here's the thing, we don't have a lot of interceptors, only 6 on the field, so Ragnarok, he is going to be able to force Zoun out once again, but I mean, there are a bunch of Archons. Oh, those are Archons with no shields. You don't want to take that fight. But what he has done is, once again, he's distracting here. He's buying time. He's knocked down a lot of static defense here with the Zealots on this right-hand side, as even as they try to knock down a +3, +5 Carapace Ultra. Not a great idea there. We still have these Banelings on the far side. I think what Ragnarok is waiting for is a just absolutely, fully Mineral Line once again, and then blow that one up. Zerg has not 20 Infestors, but he does have 15. So I guess that's like 20 Infestors. I guess that counts. All right, so +3 shields just about done. We are on 5 carriers here. +2 attack is done as well. So these carriers absolutely slap. But yeah, it's so dark style here in this game. 12 queens, 15 infestors, and say, just look, I got so much energy that you just can't do anything here. But now Ultras are going to look to run on in, and it's the High Templar that are going to use. High Templar cannot be too far forward here. Fungals on top of everything. Storms on top of a lot of these infestors, so they get feedbacked as well. But Microbial Shroud is a powerful drug. Archons are just going to all be disabled. All the Neurals going on down. So actually, the entire ground army has been Neuraled. You really can't fight that here, as I'm talking about. Well, the ground army is the scary thing when it's a Microbial Shroud game. But when the entire ground army is Neuraled, it doesn't really matter. But the issue was, it's not a great target fire. So yeah, Neurals are a thing. We're gonna see Fungals go on down, but there's just not enough energy in these infestors anymore. They're starting to get target fired on down. These Immortals firing strong from behind. The Queen count that has been so big this entire game, that has been so instrumental in keeping things alive, is getting taken on down. Now it's 100 supply, less than 100 supply for Ragnarok compared to the 150 here of Zoun, and he takes it. Game number 2 goes the way of the player that took game 1. All right, in the bottom right here in the blue, he's down 2 games in this series. We're gonna have to see whether he can make a comeback. It looked like he had what he needed in game number 2, but unfortunately, Zoun is just too much of a master in the late game. In the bottom right, in the blue, he is down 0-2, but trying to make a comeback here for Alpha X, Ragnarok. And the bottom left here in the red, up 2-0, looking dominant thus far in this series. He is the Protoss Mastermind, Zoun. And if there ever was a map for 2 base carriers, this is that map. This is the map I first started to see Zest doing it. And, well, there are a couple reasons for this. A, it's kind of obviously a Queen Walk map without actually being a good Queen Walk map, because this third base is just so far recessed from the natural that you can't really put dual pressure on the natural and the third. And if you want to put pressure on the third, you're just going to get flanked really hard. And on top of that, well, it makes up for it by being a short rush distance. So it kind of convinces the Zerg player to go to the Queen Walk, and then, well, you got 2 base carrier and you're fine. But we're going to have to see what Zoun opts to go for here. He has gone for rather quick carrier tech in both games in this series thus far. He got away with it once, and he did win both games, but in game number 2, he very much got punished for it. And actually, the carriers in that game weren't even as quick. More of our quick disruptor tech into more of a more standard carrier timing, actually. So we're going to have to see what exactly Zoun goes for in this game number 3, and how Ragnarok decides to deal with it. That Lingbane Hydra composition worked really well. He was able to knock down the 4th base, knocked down like 30 workers, and that should have been enough. It wasn't even like Ragnarok lost a lot of his army in the exchange, but he didn't really tech up quick enough. And honestly, late game against that composition that Zoun was able to make is difficult to play as a Zerg player. It is. You have to have really good caster control. You need infestors and vipers and a lot of spores, and eventually a decent amount of corruptors. And then you want to make sure that you have enough ground army. It's hard to play. It's a really hard composition to balance properly, and it feels like Ragnarok just doesn't quite have the balance that he's looking for. Okay, so once again, it will be Void Ray tech. We don't really see too much that's going to tell us one way or the other what's happening just yet. I mean, we're only 330, 340 into this game. It's early for a third base, although we should start to see that rather soon if this is going to be your standard third base timing. I like a little bit more of a delayed third base on this map in particular. Okay, no, it's just going to be the 350 third base. And we're going to have to see whether Zoun, he commits to, well, whether he commits to second Stargate behind this Oracle, whether it's Mass Oracle, whether it's much more ground-based deck. A bunch of different options. Yeah, we're going to have to see. Meanwhile, of course, RAGNAROK, he's just droning. We don't see a Roach Warren yet. Generally, unless you're dealing with some sort of Protoss all-in, which realistically, we don't see a lot of Protoss all-ins at the highest level anymore. Well, Roach Warren goes down like 430, 445, and right there with the lair. So nothing much of that just yet. How many queens do we have on the map right now? 4 going up to 6. That's valid. Second Stargate as well here for Zoun. So similar play. We're not going to see the early fleet beacon just yet. I mean, we still have the opportunity. I kind of do like +1 a little bit more. It feels like the early fleet beacon tech is kind of gimmicky, to say the least. Yeah, this is his, well, it's one of his accounts. Shinny Bomb is RAGNAROK. Okay, yeah, so it's going to be carrier, or it's going to be Void Rays, but behind this, it's going to be more of a ground focus, right? We see the Twilight going down, Forge as well, and very similar build to what we saw in game number 2, right? With the quick charge, with the quick voids. Although I believe that one had a faster +1 air, so we're gonna have to see what happens with that. But Zoun, I mean, he's pretty happy in the position that he's in. These Void Rays, they don't kill Zerglings all that quickly, but they're gonna get a couple of them, and that means no real damage here from the third base. There we go. Robo going down. We're probably going to see second Robo and Robo Bay after this first one, and just Mass Disruptor tech. I mean, Zoun, if any Korean Protoss player is the master of the Disruptor, it is this man right here. He's no M. Canning, of course. He's no savior of an entire country. He's no hero of a country, but certainly he is fantastic with the Disruptor play. And, I mean, it was he that kind of first started to show us how Disruptors could really stabilize PvZ, even if you weren't going Stargate tech. So that was always, I mean, that was kind of his claim to fame. That was his big rise. That and really having Innovation's number. Back when Innovation was looking really good last year, before he kind of started falling off PC, he had to go to military. Anyway, 7 gates underway, charge as well as the Templar Archives. Yeah, Zoun just going into that ground-based composition. These Void Rays just keeping things stable. Actually, yeah, so it looks like he only made 4 Void Rays. Totally fine. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not just 7. It is 10 gateways going on down. This is 12. Yeah, 12 total gateways are going to be the name of the game here. And I talked about this build in game number 2, I think, and we didn't see it happen. But that is absolutely what's happening here. Charge is going to sync up with +1. We got 4 Void Rays on the map, but this is just going to be a Charge Lot Archon Void Ray attack here from Zoun. This is 12 gateways, folks. And there we go. Warp Prism underway as well. This is not a 4th base into late game. No. We're going to see 3 Archons, maybe a 4th as we get the gas for it. No, it's going to be for sentries. +1's going to be done, and it's just a lot of... Are we even pulling off a gas? Okay, no, we're not pulling off a gas. So it's not going to be that bad, but certainly it is going to be a powerful composition here. RAGNAROK, he started to build some Zerglings, some Hydras, and you know what? Hydra Ling against Charge Lot Archon. Without those Banelings, not the best move here, but we will see a Observer get fired on down. Now Zealots are going to get on top of this army. These are +1. No +1 for anything here for the Zerg player. Now, once you get the Banelings in, it becomes a little bit more problematic, but these are going to be slow Banelings, absolutely. And the Protoss army is going to section off the Natural and the third base. Queens are looking for a fight. That's not all that great. You want to fight away from the Queens, at least until you get more Charge Lots. But now the Queens are segmented away. Banelings are not going to get the mass connections just on top of the Archons here. Zealot's going to look to run on in top of the Hydras. The Queens are now dead, which means the Void Rays, they're even more powerful. We're going to have to see another warp in of Zealots before this really happens. And so the Archons are going to look to run on backwards onto the high ground here, where there's a Warp Prism. That's going to be able to keep things alive. Army supply for Zoun is growing, and we're talking about this, right? When a Zerg player starts to equalize the army supply of a Protoss player in an all-in like this, That is not a good move. One Archon is now dead. We're going to see a second one get target fired as well. But Zoun is knocking down so much of this army. The Banelings are falling now. And folks, you need anti-air to deal with this. That's what makes this build so powerful. It takes more than just knocking down the ground army. You can knock down as many Zealots as you want as long as the Hydras are dead. That is all that matters. And the Hydras are starting to die. They're starting to weaken on out. Zoun has found his timing in this game. Yes, +1 melee is going to be done. But Zealots, they're going to get on top of the last of these Hydras. GG Zoun. He takes game number 3, and with it, he takes the series.